Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?
Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremias, or one of the prophets.
But whom say ye that I am?
Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah. For flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father, which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
What's in a name? What's in a name? In William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, that's what Juliet asked Romeo. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. What's in a name? Someone said you could always tell the first year psych students at college. They're the ones who walk around very contemplative. And they never ask, how are you? They ask, now, who are you? What's in a name? Jesus asked his disciples, who are people saying that I am? Who do men say that I am? The disciples thought about it for a moment, and one said, well, some say that you're John the Baptist. Others say that you're Elijah. A lot of people say that you're one of the prophets. Probably a lot of people don't know who you are. Wow, what a comparison. What a comparison. How would you like to be compared to John the Baptist, or to the prophet Elijah, or to Moses, or Isaiah, or Jeremiah, one of the great prophets, or Paul? Wouldn't it be great to be compared to those? Who do people say that we are? I guess we can be flattered by comparisons. Some would say, well, I'm the CEO of. Someone else might say, well, I'm the president of. Someone would say, well, I'm married to. My son is. My daughter is. How much is our identity? How much is your identity and my identity related to what we do, or what we have, or who we're associated with? Now, it's great to have a great career, success, possessions, a wonderful spouse, great children, wonderful grandchildren. It just doesn't get any better than that. These are good things. But I guess a question that we have to ask ourselves is this. If our identity comes through our career, what do we do when it's over? What do we do when we're not high on that corporate ladder anymore? What do we do when we retire? Or worse yet, what do we do if we happen to be laid off? If our identity is in that career, in what we do, what happens when it's over, when the company shuts down? What happens when we've been successful and all of a sudden we're not successful any longer? Sometimes our identity is in a spouse. It's who we're married to. We have a great husband. We have an awesome wife. That's certainly not a bad thing. That's a great thing. But what happens? What happens when that spouse dies? Or what happens when, for some reason, we're separated? or divorced, what happens to our identity then? Does our identity die? If there's one thing I try to tell my couples who are getting married, is that remember, you have your own identity. You are going to become Mr. and Mrs., but don't forget that you're still an individual, and it's your individuality that attracted your mate to you in the first place. Does our identity die when we lose a spouse? Sometimes our identity is in our children. And I guess the worst scenario is when we try to live our lives through our children. But yes, a lot of times we find identity in raising our children. Oh boy, I tell you what, doesn't it go by fast? Doesn't it go by fast? But what happens when the children leave home? That dreaded empty nest syndrome. If our identity is so much entangled with the lives of our children, does our identity cease when our children are gone? What does your identity depend on? Sometimes people's identity depends on labels, and this is the very negative sense of our identity. When our identity depends on the negative labels that people label on others. Alcoholic. Oh, he's an alcoholic. She's an alcoholic. Oh, now she's a drug addict, or he's a drug addict. Oh, that person is a liar. Don't you believe a word they say? Or that person, oh my goodness, they gossip all the time. They never have anything good to say about anybody. And before long, that label begins to stick. Well, if that's what people believe about me, that's who I'll be. How much is our identity related to what we have, or who we associate with, or what we do? Now, Jesus was obviously not satisfied with that answer when he said, "Who do people say I am?" He looked straight at his disciples and he asked them a very pointed question. Who do you say that I am? What if Jesus asked you that question today? What if he looked at you and said, now, who do you say that I am? Who is Jesus for you? Obviously, Jesus was not concerned about who he was compared to. He wasn't concerned about where he lived. He wasn't even concerned about who he hung out with, because a lot of times he was criticized for hanging out with those people that didn't meet the standards of others. It certainly wasn't his job, wasn't his family. He wasn't concerned about who he was being compared to, John the Baptist, Elisha, prophet. He said, who do you say that I am? And then Peter said this, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus had to smile. And he said, yes, 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 now you're on track. What a revelation you've had, Peter, from the Holy Spirit. You see, as important and as flattering as it was to be compared to John the Baptist and Elisha and the prophets, as flattering as these things were, he wanted his disciples to know who he was. Who he was. Not who he was compared to, not necessarily what he did, but who he was. As important as these things are. And please know that I believe these things are very important. I believe that a career is very important. I believe that success is very important. I believe that having a wonderful family, oh my goodness, how great that is. But as important as these things may be, that's not what gives me my true identity. And it's not what gives you your true identity. You see, your true identity doesn't rest on your career. It doesn't rest on your marriage. It doesn't rest on your children. It rests on what's inside of you. It rests on who you are. And the greatest thing about who you are is this. The greatest thing about who you are is what you've allowed God to make you in your life. It's that you are forgiven through Jesus Christ. It's through your relationship with Jesus that has changed you, that has made you better, that has forgiven you. I'm a pastor. I take that very seriously. But it's not the most important thing in my life. And it's not what has made me who I am. I'm a Christian. That's who I am. That's who I am. That's who I've allowed God through Jesus Christ to make me. To make me. I'm a Christian. That's who I am. That's my identity. And through that, through my relationship with Christ and what He's done in my life, the fruit of the Spirit, hopefully, are coming through my life. Who I am on the outside is who I am on the inside. You see, knowing that I am a Christian obviously makes me a better pastor. How can you be a pastor without being a Christian? I don't know. I guess that's possible. History says it's possible. But I have to be a Christian before I can be a good pastor. Being a Christian has a positive influence on everything in my life. Being a Christian makes me a better husband. Being a Christian makes me a better dad. Being a Christian makes me a better granddaddy. I love to hear that. I love to hear Marigold when she says, "Granddaddy, granddaddy." You see, being a Christian makes me a better person. Being a Christian makes me a better church member. It's who I am on the inside that makes me better on the outside, and not vice versa. Going to church is great, but that helps in who you are, but it's who you are on the inside, not what you do. Maybe going to church helps you find who you need to be on the inside. Being a Christian makes me a better person in my community, makes me a better leader, makes me a better servant. What's in a name? Well, it depends. And hopefully, your name and my name is Christian. Hopefully that's who we are. Because that's what Jesus was concerned about. He didn't care about all the comparisons. He wanted to know who his disciples thought he was. And when old Simon Peter said, "You're the Christ, you're the Son of the living God," Jesus said, "Yes." And he went on to say this, he said, and listen, Peter's confession, what Peter just said is what the church will be built on. It won't be built on the life of Peter, but on what Peter knew and what Peter confessed to be true, that Jesus was Christ. He was the Son of the living God, and Jesus has built the church on that confession. And I hope and pray tonight that our lives are being built, who we are, on that confession. All the other stuff is good. All the other stuff is good. But being built on the foundation of Jesus Christ is the best thing. Is the best thing you can ever be. Is the best thing anyone can ever call you or label you as a Christian. I hope and pray tonight that who you are on the inside, you're taking very seriously. And you're allowing Jesus Christ to make you who you are on the inside. So everything else, your job, your relationships, everything else can be better. Because the better I am in Jesus Christ, the better person I am every day. Every day. God bless you. And I hope to see you Sunday.
But whom say ye that I am?
Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God.